Life has a strange way of connecting the dots, doesn't it? I'm about to tell you a story I never imagined witnessing, a story of courage, fate, and an unexpected reunion. It all started on a cold December evening in the bustling streets of our city. I was walking home after a long day of work. The streetlights were flickering, casting strange shadows on the pavement. As I turned toward a small convenience store, I heard shouting. My heart raced as I saw a young boy, no older than 12, standing near the store's entrance. His wide eyes were fixed on what was happening inside. Through the glass doors, I saw a man in a black hoodie waving a gun, shouting at a police officer who was kneeling with his hands raised. The officer's badge shone under the harsh fluorescent lights, and though his face was pale, he remained calm. The boy's name was Arjun. I would learn that later. At that moment, he looked like just another scared child, but strangely determined. Without thinking, I moved closer to understand the situation. Arjun didn't wait. He picked up a stone from the sidewalk and slowly moved toward the side door of the store. My first instinct was to stop him. What could a child do in such a dangerous situation? But there was something about the way he moved, something quiet and purposeful. I held my breath as he slipped through the door. Inside, the robber was shouting at the officer, demanding money from the register. The officer was trying to stay calm, reasoning with him, but the tension was palpable. I couldn't see Arjun anymore, but suddenly, there was a loud crash. The robber spun around, distracted. Arjun had thrown the stone at a shelf, causing bottles and cans to fall noisily on the floor. For a split second, the robber lost his focus, and that's all the officer needed. With a swift move, the officer tackled the robber, disarmed him, and pinned him to the ground. By the time the police backup arrived, the situation was under control. The officer had a few scrapes, but was fine. And there, standing beside him, was Arjun, looking both nervous and proud. The officer knelt to thank the boy. "You're a brave kid," he said with a smile. "What's your name?" "Arjun," the boy replied softly. The officer froze. His expression shifted from gratitude to something deeper, something I couldn't quite place. "Arjun," he repeated, his voice trembling. "What's your last name?" "Mera," the boy said, confused. The officer's eyes filled with tears. "Is your mother's name Priya?" Arjun's mouth fell open. "How do you know my mom?" By this time, a small crowd had gathered. I stood there, watching as the officer struggled to find his words. I'm your father," he finally said. It felt like the world stopped. Arjun's eyes darted around, searching the officer's face for answers. "You left us," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "I didn't want to," the officer said, his voice breaking. "Your mom and we had problems. I had to leave to protect both of you. I've been trying to find you for years." Tears streamed down Arjun's face as he took a step back. For a moment, I thought he might run away, but then he did something that surprised everyone. He threw his arms around the officer, holding him tightly. "I missed you," Arjun sobbed. "I missed you too, son," the officer replied, his voice thick with emotion. In that moment, nothing else mattered. The robbery, the chaos, it all faded into the background. All I could see was a father and son, reunited against all odds. Sometimes life brings people together in the most unexpected ways. That cold December evening reminded me of the power of fate and of the courage it takes to face it head-on. Arjun and the officer's reunion changed everything. A family that had been separated for years was now together again. After the incident, the officer reached out to Arjun and his mother, and their family was reunited. Arjun had many conversations with his mother and realized that sometimes, no matter how tough the circumstances, the path to truth and love always finds its way back. The officer, now a father, had returned to his son and family. Their reunion, sparked by that evening's robbery, proved far more important than the crime. It was a new beginning, a new hope. And as I walked away from the scene, I realized that life often gives us chances to go through unexpected turns that teach us things we could never understand otherwise. Arjun and his father's reunion became the most beautiful story of that cold evening, a story that would always remind us to never give up because life always has a way of shining light, even in our darkest moments.